Welcome to a brand new teaching series. This teaching series is called Life Hacks, and life hacks are all about shortcuts to improving life. And we really believe that Jesus is the author and perfecter of life, and we see what he teaches as life hacks and ways to improve the way that we live our life. Whether you're a Christian or not, we think there is loads of truth in what we're going to be sharing with you over the next few weeks. Kicking us off today is Tom and his life hack.
Welcome to the Life Hack series, and in this video we're going to talk about how we can hack our attitude. And rather than our attitude ruling us, we're going to talk about how we can choose our attitude and rule it instead. And if you're a Christian and you're watching this, then I want to suggest that maybe we trust God with our attitude so that he can build us into bigger people. Now, most of you will know the story of Adam and Eve, where Adam and Eve are told by God to not eat from a certain tree in the Garden of Eden. And most of you know what happens. Adam and Eve eat the apple and everything goes a bit downhill. And what's really interesting in the Message translation of the Bible, which is basically the Bible written in modern language, we see really what Adam and Eve are thinking. And it says in Genesis 3, the serpent was clever, more clever than any other animal that God had created. And he approached Eve and asked her, is it right that God said you can't eat from any of the trees in the Garden of Eden? And she says, no, actually it's just that tree in the middle. And if we eat from that tree, then we'll die. And the serpent says to Eve, actually that's not right. If you eat from that tree, you will actually be like God. You'll see what's really going on. And then fast forward to verse 8, it says, when Adam and Eve heard God in the garden, they hid from him. And I wonder if we're a little bit like that. We're a little bit like Adam and Eve. We tend to do things that we think will better our lives. We have an attitude where we can do things for ourselves, but actually it messes things up. You see, Eve thought she found a life hack. She thought she could hack life in this situation, but she actually excluded God. And Eve's attitude shifted from honoring God to excluding God from the situation, and she thought she could do it all on her own. She thought she could get away with it. And Eve actually ends up messing everything up. And if our attitude isn't right, we can sit in the same situation. We can make some pretty big mistakes and get into difficult situations. An example of this is I was asked to play drums at a church event once, and the kit was really bad. These cymbals were falling off everywhere, the kit was dirty, and I really didn't want to play because I thought I was going to look silly, and that was my attitude. But I had to, and I hated it. I hated that experience because actually my attitude wasn't in the right place. And then fast forward a couple of years, and I'm playing in another church production in the opening piece. And the morning session was really good. I absolutely loved it. It went brilliant. But in the evening session, it wasn't so good. I actually wasn't needed to play the drums, and my only role was to move a chair off of stage. And my attitude there could have been absolutely awful. I could have kicked up so much fuss. But instead, I had a good attitude, and instead, I learned from that experience. And my point of actually sharing those two things with you is that your attitude defines your outcome. And if you face challenging things, your attitude defines whether you can learn and grow from that experience. And that's what we want to talk about today. That is how you hack your attitude, and it helps grow you. So in 2 Corinthians 10 verse 5, it tells us to take captive every thought and make it obedient to Christ. And what this looks like is you recognize your attitude and you capture it before you can respond to your thoughts. So this looks like when you're asked to do something you really don't want to do, the dishes or something like that. You capture that thought, you leave it where it is before you can respond to that thought. And that's how we hack our attitude, and you'd be surprised at what impact that can have on your life. But what can you do in real life that puts this into action? When I was a kid, I was a real geek. I was obsessed with planes. I wanted to become a pilot, and I knew everything about planes. And there's 2 terms that pilots will use to talk about when they go up and when they go down. When they go up, it's a nose up attitude. And when they go down, it's a nose down attitude. And what I want you to visualize is that a nose up attitude is something where you ascend, you rise above. And that's what this verse is talking about. This is how you capture your thoughts. You rise above your thoughts and your attitude. That's how you hack your attitude. You rise above it and you capture it before you can respond to it. A nose down attitude makes things difficult. You are going lower than your potential. You are lowering yourself. You're not capturing your thoughts, and as a result, it's making things difficult. Relationships can become difficult because you're moaning all the time and people get annoyed at you. And really what we want to focus on is how we hack our attitude to capture our thoughts. In Romans 12:2, it says, "Do not be conformed to the patterns of this world." And what this means is that we don't allow culture, our friends, society to tell us how to act and how to think, and really what our attitude should be. Instead, if you're a Christian, what we believe is that we hand that over to God. We hand our thoughts over to God and allow Him to filter through that for us. If you're not a Christian, that's okay. By investing and hacking your attitude, what you're doing is growing yourself as a person. You're becoming a bigger person. And again, if you're a Christian, I really believe that this is how we become the person that God has intended us to be, the person He's designed us to be. I think that by doing that and allowing Him to take control of our thoughts and our attitude, and allowing Him to teach us how to hack our attitude, we can become people that are capable of achieving incredible things. But if you're not a Christian, that's totally okay too. In fact, I think that this is a worthwhile investment for anybody, not just Christians, because really what it does is it grows us as a person. It helps us to be something positive to society rather than something negative. And overall, it helps us to become someone that is capable of achieving something incredible.